Ladies and gentlemen, this is Paul Evangel speaking to you from the Terminal of Life near the Gate of Death, where along with many others we will shortly be boarding the Interworld Airlines flight FINAL for the New Jerusalem. This is the very first time that anyone in broadcasting has been given the authority to actually witness information so that you can prepare yourself for this heavenly journey. The terminal is very crowded today, and we know that this is not at all unusual, for eventually all people of all nations will pass through this point of separation. Let's listen to the dispatcher.
Interworld Airlines Flight FINAL non-stop supersonic service to the New Jerusalem is now ready for boarding at the Gate of Death. Passengers holding confirmed reservations for this flight may proceed immediately to this gate through the blood-sprinkled concourse. Because the exact time of departure is uncertain, you are urged to remain ready at any moment. Thank you.
The crowd seems to be milling about, most everyone talking, some praying, some laughing, with only a few people acting as if they were paying any attention to the announcement. They are making ready to leave on this flight. Who are these that were listening to the dispatcher and responding? Well, with close observation, we notice that each one of them has a ticket in his hand. Sir, could I see your ticket for just a moment, so that I can tell our audience about it? Thank you. It says, issued from Mount Calvary by the Chief Agent, the Holy Spirit, and it has been officially stamped with the blood of Jesus Christ. Here you are, sir. Thanks again. God bless you. I noticed, too, that each of the ticket holders is carrying his own baggage. I'm told each one is furnished with the baggage of grace and godliness. No sad faces seem to be here to enter the Gate of Death. Everybody is beaming. One of the passengers seems to be singing. Let's walk along with the portable microphone and see if we can pick up just a little of his song of praise.
I'd like to pass on the feeling of great joy I found in Eckankar, for those who have ears to hear, for I too have had a longing deep inside, never knowing where to hide, for one day up, the next day down. No longer am I tied to this earth world, its troubles or woe. I have no fear of death no more, since on the path of air, greater is he that ruleth his own spirit than taketh a city, for inward rulership is the mastery of the master. This too can be yours. For those at the grassroots and those in doubt who just don't understand, let your ears hear these two words. Give no thought of where you are, for the Master is always with you. For in soul you can be free. We'd like to pass on the feeling of return and an empty car. One day up, the next day down. No longer are we tied to the sun. His troubles alone. It's on the path of greater is he that ruleth his own spirit and taketh a city, for rulership is the mastery of the master. This too can be yours. For those at the grassroots and those in doubt who just don't understand, let your ears hear these two words. Give no thought of where you are, for the Master is always with you. For in soul you can be free.
reaction to long hair or beards on young people. Some great men have worn long hair and beards, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. If to you long hair or a beard is a symbol of independence, if you believe in your heart that the principles of this country, our heritage, is worthy of this display of pride, that all men shall remain free, that free men at all times will not inflict their personal limitations of achievement on others, to demand your own rights as well as the rights of others and be willing to fight for this right, you have my blessing. You ask that I not judge you merely as a teenager, to judge you on your own personal habits, abilities, and goals. This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager. If you will constantly remind yourself that some of my generation judges people by their race, their belief, or the color of their skin, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers. If you will judge every human being on his own individual potential, I will do the same. You ask me if God is dead. This is a question each individual must answer within himself. With a warm summer day, with all its brightness, its sound, all its exhilarating breathiness, just happen? God is love. Remember that God is a guide and not a stormtrooper. Realize that many of the past and present generation, because of a well-intentioned but unjustifiable misconception, have attempted to legislate morality. This created part of the basis for your generation's need to rebel against our society. With this knowledge, perhaps your children will never ask, is God dead? I sometimes think much of mankind is attempting to work him to death. You ask my opinion of draft card burners. I would answer this way. All past wars have been dirty, unfair, immoral, bloody, and second-guessed. However, history has shown most of them necessary. If you doubt that our free enterprise system in the United States is worth protecting, if you doubt the principles upon which this country was founded, that we remain free to choose our religion, our individual endeavors, our method of government, if you doubt that each free individual in this great country should reap awards commensurate only with his own efforts, then it's doubtful you belong here. If you doubt that people to govern us should be selected by their desire to allow us to strive for any goal we feel capable of attaining, then it's doubtful you should participate in their selection. If you are not grateful to a country that gave your father the opportunity to work for his family, to give you the things you've had, and you do not feel pride enough to fight for your right to continue in this manner, then I assume the blame for your failure to recognize the true value of our birthright. I would remind you that your mother will love you no matter what you do, because she is a woman. And I love you too, son. But I also love our country and the principles for which we stand. And if you decide to burn your draft card, then burn your birth certificate at the same time. From that moment on, I have no son.
America's way, our forefathers' way, the freedom to use, the choice we choose, that's what got us where we are today. It's an American thing that makes the liberty ring, and we all are a part, very close to the heart. There's a spirit of achievement all around, where opportunity for all is found. America's way, it's America's way. Just come and think, we all are in sync, with an eye on profit, all in sway. Now the people's content, with all the effort that's spent. The incentive is clear, opportunity's here, and it's well within reach to make it pay. It's America's way, a free and kind way, all America's way.
All right, Mr. Scientist, would you tell us a little bit about the explosion of a hydrogen bomb? First of all, there's a tremendous mushrooming effect. 1900 years ago, Peter said, the heavens pass away with the blast, the noise thereof. Secondly, as it comes in a downward direction, it disintegrates, dissolves, melts everything, even steel. A 500-foot steel tower in New Mexico melted to the ground so that they found nothing. Now I want you to get this. Peter said, the elements shall melt with fervent heat. If you go to the library tomorrow and say to the librarian, I want to study the hydrogen bomb, she'd say, sir, follow me. Letter E, word elements. Did you know that in your library in America, the atom bomb is classified under elements? What'd you say, Peter? The elements shall melt. Brother, God gave Peter the exact word 1900 years ago. This is God's word, friend. Don't let anyone fool you.
that. Let's, for old time's sake, let's switch on the old wireless and see what's happening around the world. And we switched on. We went to Radio Moscow World Service. And my friend says, this frequency is Radio Moscow World Service. And I'm listening in, and it's the top of the hour, and there's this music playing. And of course, I know how these things work at Radio Moscow. When there's a lot of music at the top of the hour and no news bulletin, that means just hit the fan. That's what it turned out to be when Karina Melikan went on the air a couple of minutes after, past the top of the hour, saying that, what has happened.
This is Radio Moscow World Service in our news flash. Because of Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev's inability to act as Soviet president, the USSR Vice President United has taken over presidential powers in the country.
It's got to be done, so I will do my duty to try and save this country from the red. There's soldiers all around me who are here to safeguard our loved ones who sleep peacefully in bed. It's got to be done to stop the commies where they are, or all of us will live with that menacing red star. The battle's just beginning. Hold on, fellas, here they come. We're fighting for America. It's got to be done. It's got to be done, so I will do my duty to try to save this country from the red. There's soldiers all around me who are here to safeguard our loved ones who sleep peacefully in bed. It's got to be done to stop the commies where they are, or all of us will live with that menacing red star. The battle's just beginning. Hold on, fellas, here they come. We're fighting for America. It's got to be done.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, His truth is marching on.
This is a strange but true story which proves that history does repeat itself, and the events depicted here happened just 100 years apart. Both President Lincoln and President Kennedy were concerned with the issue of civil rights. Lincoln was elected in 1860. Kennedy was elected in 1960, 100 years apart. Both were shot from behind in the head. Their successors, both named Johnson, were Southern Democrats with seats in the Senate. Andrew Johnson was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson was born in 1908, 100 years apart. John Wilkes Booth, the man that shot Lincoln, was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald, the man that shot Kennedy, was born in 1939, 100 years apart. Booth and Oswald were Southerners, favoring unpopular ideas. Booth and Oswald were both assassinated before going to trial. Both presidents' wives lost children through death while in the White House. Both presidents were killed on a Friday and in the presence of their wives. President Lincoln's secretary, whose name was Kennedy, advised him not to go to the theater. President Kennedy's secretary, whose name was Lincoln, advised him not to go to Dallas. John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln in a theater and ran to a warehouse. Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and ran to a theater. The names Lincoln and Kennedy each contain 7 letters. The names Andrew Johnson and Lyndon Johnson each contain 15 letters.
That's weird.
It has declined there by 41% since 1971, and this Canadian thinks it's time to speak up for the Americans as the most generous and possibly the least appreciated people in all the earth. As long as 60 years ago, when I first started to read newspapers, I read of floods on the Yellow River and the Yangtze. Who rushed in with men and money to help? The Americans did. They have helped control floods on the Nile, the Amazon, the Ganges, and the Niger. Today, the rich bottomland of the Mississippi is underwater, and no foreign land has sent a dollar to help. Germany, Japan, and to a lesser extent, Britain and Italy were lifted out of the debris of war by the Americans, who poured in billions of dollars and forgave other billions in debt. None of those countries is today paying even the interest on its remaining debts to the United States. When the franc was in danger of collapsing in 1956, it was the Americans who propped it up, and their reward was to be insulted and swindled on the streets of Paris. I was there. I saw it. When distant cities are hit by earthquake, it is the United States that hurries in to help. Managua, Nicaragua is one of the most recent examples. So far this spring, 59 American communities have been flattened by tornadoes. Nobody has helped. The Marshall Plan, the Truman Policy, all pumped billions upon billions of dollars into discouraged countries. Now newspapers in those countries are writing about the decadent, warmongering Americans. I'd like to see just one of those countries that is gloating over the erosion of the United States dollar build its own airplane. Come on, let's hear it. Does any other country in the world have a plane to equal the Boeing jumbo jet, the Lockheed TriStar, or the Douglas 10? If so, why don't they fly them? Why do all international lines except Russia fly American planes? Why does no other land on Earth even consider putting a man or woman on the moon? You talk about Japanese technocracy and you get radios. You talk about German technocracy and you get automobiles. You talk about American technocracy and you will find men on the moon, not once, but several times, and safely home again. You talk about scandals, and the Americans put theirs right in the store window for everybody to look at. Even the draft dodgers are not pursued and hounded. They are here on our streets, most of them, unless they are breaking Canadian laws, are getting American dollars from Ma and Pa at home to spend here. When the Americans get out of this bind, as they will, who could blame them if they said, the hell with the rest of the world? Let someone else buy the foreign bonds. Let someone else build or repair foreign dams or design foreign buildings that won't shake apart in earthquakes. When the railways of France, Germany, and India were breaking down through age, it was the Americans who rebuilt them. When the Pennsylvania Railroad and the New York Central went broke, nobody loaned them an old caboose. Both are still broke. I can name you 5,000 times when the Americans raced to the help of other people in trouble. Can you name me even one time when someone else raced to the Americans in trouble? I don't think there was outside help even during the San Francisco earthquake. Our neighbors have faced it alone, and I'm one Canadian who's damned tired of hearing them kicked around. They will come out of this thing with their flag high, and when they do, they are entitled to thumb their nose at the lands that are gloating over their present troubles. I hope Canada is not one of these, but there are many smug, self-righteous Canadians. And finally, the American Red Cross was told at its 48th annual meeting in New Orleans that it was broke. This year's disasters have taken it all, and nobody, but nobody, has helped.
Dear Canada, I'm writing this letter to thank you for helping 6 Americans in Iran. I'm not the only one writing you a letter. All my friends are too. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. My name is Shelley. I'm 8 years old. Today, it seems like all Americans are smiling because of what you do. Just when it seemed like you didn't have any friends, there you were. My brother Bill's in the Army. He called home and said Canada was a good friend, and in this bad time, we need all our friends. I never visited your country, but maybe someday I will. I've seen pictures of it, and it's beautiful, and I do love hockey. I don't know why that man with the beard doesn't like us, but I'm glad you do. Uh-oh, I have to go now, because my mom's calling me for dinner, and I have homework to do. Well, tonight when I go to bed, I'll pray to God that He will bless you for what you do. P.S. Canada, You have a special place in my heart, in my country heart. Love, Shelley.
I'm from New Jersey and I'm proud about it. I love the Garden State. I'm from New Jersey and I brag about it. I think it's simply great. All of the other states throughout the nation may need know how to talk. But I'll say New Jersey, brother Jersey is like no other. I'm glad that's where I'm from. I'm from New Jersey and I'm proud about it. I love the Garden State. I'm from New Jersey and I brag about it. I think it's simply great. All of the other states throughout the nation may need a lot to call. But I'll say New Jersey, brother Jersey is like no other. I'm glad that's where I'm from.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is station WORD, broadcasting from the great Stadium of Life. We have for you a play-by-play description of the greatest and most important of all gridiron classics, the Game of Life. Our game here will be underway in just a few moments. And while we await the opening whistle, we'd like to point out some interesting sidelights surrounding this momentous occasion. The weather is ideal in the stadium, even though it really makes little difference, since a game as important as this one must be played regardless of conditions. There's a tremendous crowd on hand today. The stands are literally packed with a great cloud of witnesses, as the writer of Hebrews points out. Down on the field, we can see that both teams are completing the pregame workout. To our right are the players representing Christianity. And this Christian team, by the way, has the finest of all coaches. Noted for his unerring wisdom, this great mentor, Jesus Christ, is the model of perfection in the coaching realm. However, as we look down to our left, we see another great squad and a very cunning and clever coach. This is the team coached by Satan, the forces of evil. And believe you me, Satan and his men will be tough to handle. There's a great wave of anticipation and expectancy in the crowd as the two teams prepare for the opening kickoff. As you know, the referee for this Game of Life is God himself, the perfect, just, and all-seeing referee. And the rules of the game, the instructions as to how it should be played, are found in God's book, the Bible. The coaches have given their respective players their last-minute instructions, Jesus Christ telling his players, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." Christ has now come off the field, and it's all up to the players whom he's just left with that last-minute challenge ringing in their ears. The outcome of this spectacle is all the more important to these alumni who are here because of the fact that the entire hope of Christianity in this, the Game of Life, depends upon the ball-carrying ability of average Christians. This places a heavy responsibility on average Christians, and that's the reason the eyes of the crowd will be upon him today. Both teams are lined up now for the opening kickoff. The goals of the two teams are exactly opposite, that of Christianity being the goal of heaven, while the forces of evil will head toward their goal, hell. And now it's going to be Satan's team kicking off to Christianity. And there's the referee's whistle as the game is underway. It's Criticism kicking a high end-over-end kick. It's taken on the goal line by Average Christian. He starts up the field as forces of evil players move in on him. He appears a bit uncertain, but he gets across the 15. Now he cuts to his right and picks up some interference. It's Prayer and Humility. Average Christian is still going up the far sideline past the 30 with Prayer and Humility out in front clearing the way. There's one Satan's been trying to crash through, and Average Christian sidesteps beautifully at the 40, getting away from Temptation. Now he runs with added confidence. He crosses the midfield stripe and makes his way toward this side of the field, but he lets his interference on the other side, and now he's by himself down to the 45. He sidesteps nicely, getting away from Hypocrisy, and goes to the 43, doing a nice job in the broken field. But there's a player coming up from behind. He's gaining. He dives and makes the tackle beautifully at the 40-yard line in forces of evil territory. Average Christian appeared confident that he was on his way to score, but Temptation sneaks in for the tackle. And over on the far sidelines, we can see Satan pacing up and down the sidelines, getting reserves ready for action. Here's Christianity back to the line of scrimmage, and the ball is snapped this time to Average Christian, who drives off his own right tackle, finds a hole, and blasts through to the 32. Before the big opposing lineman's procrastination brings him to the ground. The tackle who opened that hole for Average Christian was the very capable and important lineman, Church Attendant. He had a hole there big enough to drive the proverbial truck through, and Average Christian drove through nicely until hit hard by procrastination in the opponent's secondary. Second down 2 now as Christianity is out of the huddle once again. The forces of evil set up their defense, and here's the play. It's Average Christian trying the middle of the line. He stopped cold after a pickup of about a yard. It was carelessness on the tackle as good intentions failed to open a hole in the line. In fact, good intentions was in the way himself on that one. Well, it's third down and a yard, and the Christianity team is calling for a timeout. Just what Christianity will do to stop procrastination, hypocrisy, temptation, and the other forces of evil remains to be seen. We've noted in observing some of the onlookers that there are several famous and successful veterans of this big game in the stands today. They are famous alumni who are on hand to pull from men trying to follow in their footsteps. Among them are such notables as Moses, Gideon, Peter, Paul, and many, many others. It's time to go back to play now at the Stadium of Life. Christianity out of the huddle and up to the line of scrimmage. And here's the pass from center. Again it goes to Average Christian. Average Christian is coming around his own left end, looking for a chance to cut downfield. Now he's getting some interference and makes his cat. It's Clay out there again. And there's Faith throwing a beautiful block as he got to the 30. He's still going strong. Faithfulness comes in to add interference to the 25 as Average Christian running nicely, cuts to his right. Leaving his interference. He's to the 23 by himself, heading goalward. But a couple of tacklers upon desperately to catch him from behind. He gets the catch to 20. And he's hit the ball. 15-yard line. And the ball is recovered by forces of evil. And Average Christian fans is hurt on the play. He doesn't get up. Average Christian remains on the ground. This boy Temptation can certainly get in on plays when least expected. He and Little Sins just came from out of nowhere to bring about the downfall of Average Christian. Now the coach for Christianity, Jesus Christ, has come onto the field and is talking to his ball carrier, Average Christian. Let's take a look. And it looks like Average Christian. Average Christian is going to stay in the ball game. Let's pick up the game music on the far side of the field.
well, son, won't we? For a road where safe to cross. And I calculate I'm worth my weight in golden rod. Lucky, lucky me, I can live in luxury, 'cause I've got a pocket full of dreams. Listen to Franklin Roosevelt. I will win this war, even from American shore, 'cause I've got a pocket full of dreams. I claim the universe, just petting out my pearls, 'cause I've got a pocket full of dreams. Gonna take the world for Wall Street, gonna fight for Russia too. I'm fighting for democracy, I'm fighting for the Jews. Lucky, lucky me, I can live in luxury, 'cause I've got a pocket full of
Looks like it'll be a while. Doctor's waiting room is packed. Guess I'll read a magazine. How to be an efficient executive. Have to read that sometime. Oh, what a car. And there's a beautiful girl leaning all over it. You've got to paint. Be great not to have to paint the house every other year. And there's a beautiful girl holding a paintbrush. A vacation trip to Hawaii. And there's a beautiful girl holding a ticket. You can sure see what draws a guy to look at these ads. Nothing man has made, God made girls. Of course, man has given them the big sex symbol image, but God made the initial form. Quite a design. Have to think about that the next time I'm watching a girl. Not to take the fun out of it. It'll just make girl watching mean more. You know.
The preceding brought to you by your station in observance of the 450th anniversary of the Reformation.
After bidding farewell to loved ones and friends, the passengers show their tickets to the angel who waits at the gate of death. The air is getting a bit chilly on the ramp as the gate opens, but the warmth of peace and hope in the hearts of the passengers seems to produce great calmness as they enter the plane. Let's take just a moment and attempt to describe this unusual aircraft. It's a large, glowing, and resplendent airliner, and I must say unlike anything we have ever seen before. Its beauty and splendor actually defy description. It's surrounded by a brightly shining heavenly light. Red letters, symbolizing the blood of Christ, read Inter-World Airlines. I am entering the plane now, along with the passengers, and we are greeted by our stewardess. She seems to be checking something. Just a moment. The crowd is all around her. Oh, yes, she is rechecking their tickets and trying to figure out what she's going to do with the small two-edged sword she's carrying. She reaches out, and she has cut all earthly burdens from their backs. We should have known. After all, where these are going, earthly burdens can never come.
Welcome aboard Interworld Airlines Flight FINAL, non-stop supersonic service to the New Jerusalem. Your captain is the Lord Jesus Christ, and I'm your chief stewardess, the Angel of Mercy. You will find your seatbelt in Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Fasten your seatbelt, please.